The SEC just got another reminder of who runs the standard, and it's Dawn Staley and the powerhouse South Carolina Gamecocks women's basketball. Fresh off a dominant road performance against the Alabama Crimson Tide women's basketball, Coach Staley stepped to the podium, calm, calculated, and championship-focused. No hype. No panic. Just elite expectations and a message that should send chills across the SEC. This team is built. If you love high-level coaching breakdowns, inside the locker room energy, and championship mentality talk, you are in the right. Before we dive into everything Dawn Staley said, from defensive dominance to player growth to what's coming next, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe for non-stop women's college basketball coverage, and drop a comment. Is South Carolina the most complete team? Let's get in. If you love elite coaching, championship culture, and SEC dominance, you're in the right place. Smash the like button, subscribe for more elite women's basketball coverage, and drop a comment right now. Is this the most complete team Dawn Staley has coached in the last 3 seasons? Because what we witnessed in Tuscaloosa wasn't just another conference. It was a state. On February 19, 2026, inside Coleman Coliseum, the number 3 ranked South Carolina Gamecocks women's basketball walked into hostile territory and walked out with authority, a 76-57 win over the Alabama Crimson Tide women's basketball. And then came the post-game media availability. And if you know Dawn Staley, you know this, the game might end at the buzzer, but the real message often comes at the podium. This wasn't a loud, emotional, chest-pounding press conference. It was sharper than that. It was controlled. Focused. Direct. The tone of a coach who sees the bigger picture. From the opening question, Staley set the temperature in the room. She didn't celebrate the margin. She didn't dwell on rankings. Instead, she talked about discipline. We defended the way we're capable of defending. That was her headline. South Carolina's defense suffocated Alabama early. The Gamecocks controlled pace, forced uncomfortable possessions, and won the rebounding battle decisively. But what stood out most was effort consistency. There were no extended lapses. No careless stretches. Staley emphasized that. She pointed out that road games in the SEC are never casual. There's no such thing as an easy night. So for her team to lock in from the opening tip mattered more than the final score. Then the questions turned to individuals. Joyce Edwards, 23 points. 12 rebounds. Efficiency. Physical presence. Staley smiled, but only slightly. She's learning how to dominate without forcing. That line says everything. Edwards didn't chase numbers. She let the game come to her. She attacked mismatches. She trusted spacing. She defended. She rebounded outside her area. For Staley, that's growth. Madina Okot's name followed. 16 points. 16 rebounds. A monster performance on the glass. Staley credited positioning and timing, not just size. She talked about how Okot is beginning to understand SEC physicality. She's embracing contact now, Staley noted. Not avoiding it. That evolution matters in February. But perhaps the most compelling part of the media session centered on Raven Johnson. Earlier in the week, Johnson had been under the weather. There were real questions about whether she would play. She did more than play. She competed. And Staley made sure to recognize it. We didn't even know if she was going to play, she said. But she braved through and played like the champion she is. That word, champion, isn't thrown around casually by Staley. It signals trust. Johnson's impact wasn't just statistical. It was leadership. Tempo control. Defensive communication. The kind of invisible glue that championship teams require. Staley shifted from individuals back to team identity quickly. Because that's her. No one player is the headline for long. When asked about the team's rebounding dominance, she reframed it as preparation. We practiced it. That might sound simple. It's not. In February, fatigue sets in. Film gets repetitive. Bodies ache. But Staley's teams often sharpen late in the season. That's not an accident. That's culture. She spoke about accountability, how players are holding each other responsible in huddles. How assistants are demanding precision in scouting reports. There was no emotional overreaction in her voice. No sense of surprise. This performance wasn't unexpected to her. It was required. The media pressed her about rankings, being number 3 and chasing number 1 positioning. She dismissed it. Rankings don't defend ball screens. Classic Staley. That answer tells you everything about her priorities. Defensive rotations. Closeouts. Weak side help. Those are the details she obsesses over, not poll number. Then came the inevitable question about momentum heading into the next matchup. She didn't bite. Each game has its own personality. That's how she views the SEC, not as a streak, but as a series of independent battles. She acknowledged Alabama's fight. She praised their physicality. She even pointed out specific adjustments they made in the second half. That respect matters. Staley doesn't publicly dismiss opponents. She studies them. She acknowledges them. And then she out-prepares them. One reporter asked about depth. The Gamecocks rotated freely. Fresh legs. Multiple scoring options. Staley credited conditioning and trust. We can play 9 deep because they practice like starters. That line should send a message across the league. This isn't a top-heavy roster. It's layered. Every substitution maintains defensive intensity. Every lineup has rebounding presence. Every guard understands transition responsibilities. That's not talent alone. That's development. When asked about late-game execution, she highlighted communication. Talking fixes a lot of things. In road environments, noise disrupts timing. So Staley drills communication relentlessly. Hand signals. Eye contact. Defensive. It showed in Tuscaloosa. Alabama struggled to generate clean looks late. The Gamecocks closed the door without drama. Then came a question about composure. This rivalry has grown competitive. Emotions can flare. But Staley praised her team's maturity. No unnecessary reaction. That's growth. In previous seasons, young teams might respond emotionally to physical play. This team absorbed contact and responded with execution. That's championship behavior. As the press conference continued, Staley zoomed out. She talked about February basketball, the grind, the mental strain. She acknowledged fatigue. But she also spoke about hunger. There's still a lot we haven't tapped into. That statement should concern the rest of the SEC. Because if this wasn't their ceiling, what is? She mentioned transition defense needing improvement. She mentioned missed assignments in the third quarter. Even after a 19-point win, she identified, that's elite coaching. Celebrate internally. Correct publicly. Build constantly. The final minutes of the availability shifted toward leadership. Upperclassmen. Practice tone. Film study habits. Staley emphasized that championship habits aren't built in March. They're built in film rooms in February. They're built in conditioning drills when no cameras are on. She credited assistant coaches for scouting precision. She credited players for accepting coaching without ego. And then she ended the session the way she often does, with calm confidence. No guarantees. No bold predictions. Just focus. We'll get back to work tomorrow. That was it. But that simple sentence carries weight. Because in Staley's world, consistency is louder than hype. This wasn't about one win. It was about trajectory. South Carolina now looks sharper defensively. More balanced offensively. Deeper rotationally. And Staley knows it. But she won't say it outright. She'll let March speak. And if this postgame tone is any indication, the Gamecocks are not peaking early. They're building deliberately. Methodically. Dangerously. If you enjoyed this deep breakdown of Dawn Staley's Alabama postgame media availability, make sure you like this video, subscribe for full SEC coverage, and comment below. Is South Carolina the most complete team in the country right now? And don't go anywhere, because the road to March is only getting louder, and every word from Dawn Staley mattered. What a night. What a statement. And once again, Dawn Staley reminded everyone why the standard in women's college basketball runs straight through the South Carolina Gamecocks women's basketball. Composure. Accountability. Defensive dominance. That's not just a win, that's a mindset. And if this team is still getting better, the rest of the country should be paying very close attention. If you enjoyed this full breakdown of Dawn Staley's postgame media availability, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe so you never miss a breakdown, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Is this a championship caliber South Carolina squad? Turn on notifications because we're covering every statement, every adjustment, and every big moment all season long. The road's up, and we're just getting started. See you in the next one.